Hey, cool kids. Welcome into the Cool Grandpa podcast. This week's guest is Erica Sell. Now, Erica is a returning guest. We had her on probably a month or so ago, and she was talking to us about home medical equipment, about how to get the right equipment, what the equipment looks like, what are some of the things that Medicare and Medicaid pay for, what are some of the things that they don't cover. And this time around, though, we are going to get into some of the stories and learn a little bit more of the impact about having the proper equipment and the proper setup in a person's home so that they can either age in place as long as possible, or if they're going through a rehab situation, what kind of equipment, what kind of changes to the household do you need to make in order to really feel comfortable, but also remain as independent as you can. So before we get started, though, I want to remind you that I've got a link in the show notes to Grand Magazine. This last spring issue, I was featured as somebody talking about Generation X grandparents and grandfathers in particular. And what are some of the things that I'm seeing that Generation X is doing slightly different from what the baby boomer generation, the silent generation have done, and what we're doing to really put our imprint on this role of being a grandparent. So be sure to check that out. Again, I've got a link to that great article down into the show notes. So without further ado, let's jump into this conversation with Erica. Hi, Erica. Welcome back to the Cool Grandpa podcast. I'm glad to have you back for this part 2 of an important conversation.
Yes, thank you, Greg. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Now, in our first conversation, we talked about all the services that you offer and really kind of the nuts and bolts of getting home medical equipment, whether you're renting or buying, what insurance covers, what it doesn't cover, those sorts of things. This one, I want to talk a little bit more about some of the stories that you have, some of the experiences. What are some of the emotional aspects? Because it's easy enough, just like when you go down and buy a car, you can go down and buy a car, but if you're looking for a car for that special family trip, that's going to have a little bit of a different emotional part to it. So this will be a great one for us. To kick it off, I'd love to ask you, what are some of the most emotional and difficult moments you see when, whether it's a person or maybe the adult children finally realize that they can no longer stay in a home, or their parents can no longer stay in a home. And how do you help navigate some of that? Because that's not necessarily a medical device question, but it's something that you probably come across.
Yeah, in a lot of different ways. So there's a lot of different potential dynamics with that scenario and with some of the emotional conversations and decisions that come up with aging in place. I guess the most common I could start with, and the most common is the stubborn parent. That's the one that we hear about the most, or even stubborn spouse too. Whether staying in the home or not is possible, we hit that psychological barrier with introducing equipment. And then, of course, a big psychological barrier with actually leaving the home. And so we help families find the right resources in the community that could help them navigate that, because that's not what we do per se. Some advice I would give is that you can bring in third party advocates. So I've been that third party advocate. I've been asked to do my home assessment, but then have kind of a heart to heart with the resident, who is mom or dad, about how there's so many things in the house that it's very difficult and very expensive, and that my recommendation would probably be to move. That the list, and then I don't like to say the word monitoring, and I wouldn't say that then, but just being able to stay safe independently becomes so difficult, even if you have your handrails, even if you have your high-low bed and your roll-in shower, because stuff like memory or ability to do self-care declines so significantly. So sometimes it helps to have that third-party expert come in and set that stage, and then of course the end all be all of truth, the physician. It's kind of blows my mind how much weight they put in what their doctor will say, because it's not always even related to like their specific medical condition, but it would still be very helpful for any other authoritative third party figure to give the recommendation or support the family member that's advocating for the move or advocating for the equipment, to support what they're saying, because the parent can be resistant to their child or to the spouse. So I find that helps a lot. And oftentimes people have to have a multi-pronged approach and a multi-tiered approach where they plant the seed and then wait and come back to that conversation again in a different way. And a lot of questions. Some of the sales of getting a person to say yes a few times in a row or say an implicit no, like saying, would you be completely opposed to, and they will say not completely opposed, trying to start to get some movement in the conversation with questions.
Now, is it normally the adult children, let's say, or is it the people living in the home that will first start to recognize that they might need handrails or they might need to change their tub? So I've forgot what the name of that is. It's just kind of a walk-in shower type situation,
Yeah.
but there's a door or something.
Oh, walk-in tub. Yeah, walk-in tub. We really advocate for a lot of roll-in showers, zero lip showers. So, it's usually, we see most often that it's the person living in the home's partner or caregiver. Sometimes it's the end user, but for home changes and home modifications, a lot of times it is somebody who's in the home more often than just the adult child. But it is all over the place. It totally depends. What we see often is an adult child comes to visit, and you may not live in the same town as mom or dad, and they come to visit and they see a lot of changes that they didn't see before. And it also helps because there's those visits are spaced out, versus sometimes the person themselves, they're too close to the decline to see the decline clearly. And so the child will come back and be like, wow, mom is wall walking now, like holding on to everything while she walks down the hallway, or all the food in the refrigerator is expired. She's really not able to do care appropriately. We have to do something. So yeah, so it's for big drastic, like, oh my gosh, you have to do something. Oftentimes it's the visiting child. But for the gradual, a lot of times it's the spouse or roommate or caregiver in the home.
Sure. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Do you find the most resistant is going to be the older men or the women that are more resistant to, I don't need rails, I don't need a lift chair, I don't need the roll-in shower?
Yeah. So I see it on both sides. I'd have to say percentage wise, it's probably more the men. The more the men that are resistant, the married men, the men who are with their spouse and their adult child, and the spouse try to advocate. Men who are widowed or single, who have their adult child and usually their adult daughter advocating for them, they are more complicit and like, okay, I'm going to listen to you and do what you need me to do. I think there may be decision fatigue. They appreciate the help. They're just more laid back for whatever reason. They've probably been through a lot already when they've been widowed. And they are tired of making home decisions, and they let their loved ones help them a little bit more. But I see it on all sides. I also see, we had in here not too long ago, she was like 96 years old saying, well, I'm not old yet. I'm not old yet. I don't need one of these shoes because I'm not old yet. And it's like, when are we going to be old? You're in your 90s. But it's also that mindset and that determination that gets people to the age, just their 80s, 90s, centennials, still doing well and still living on their own. A lot is mind over matter in life. And so I think that attitude also helps them along the way. And then when they start to need a lot of care and intervention, it can be a little bit of a challenge for the caregivers, but you got to give it to them for also having the spunk to get that far with it.
Okay. And I think a question that I've got as well is, We've talked about when we come in and we put in the handrails and maybe we redo the kitchen a little bit or even the entryways so wheelchairs, things can be more accessible. What do people need to be thinking in terms of when they do these home modifications? Does it, do you know, does it become harder to resell the home or do they need to change things back before they sell or what is
Yeah.
your experience with that?
So when done right, no, generally not. You can make an accessible home look beautiful. If they have thrown up like white grab bars and kind of more sterile looking stuff on drywall, then yeah, take them out, patch them, and paint it. The roll-in showers and the bathroom modifications, those should never be a hindrance to a resale. Those should look integrated and amazing and can really help, especially since boomers control so much of the market and are buying houses more often than young people today. So that's really a selling point. So usually I don't see people having to make a bunch of changes to sell their home and move out of their home when they've done modifications. I've seen some not as great looking grab bars in random places and walls. And again, that's an easy patch and fix to put it back to as is. So yeah, I think more often the things that stand out in a senior's home is like the wallpaper is still there, the interior decor. If they made accessibility changes, it's usually the most updated room in the house, and so it um, should look nice.
Okay, that makes sense. I think sometimes, whether I visited with people or not, I've had that experience like you talked about the white grab bars, the things that almost look really plasticky
Yeah,
in like, let's say a 40-year-old home or something where it doesn't fit right or it doesn't
yeah,
feel right. But
yep,
yeah, if you're using it, use it. But maybe when it
yeah,
comes time to sell, it's get the
yeah. You
grandkids
can
to help
remove
pull
it,
it out.
and you could take a little bit more effort and resources on the front end of that, and put in handrails that are really pretty, or bars that look like the toilet paper holder or the two-in-one towel bars. Like there's bars that you can put up that actually you'd want to keep there, and the right kind of handrails too that aren't grab bar handrails but bona fide handrails that are pretty. So it's better to do a little bit more of spending on that front end and have it actually look nice in your home when the location merits that. You know, like when you can. Sometimes people need a grab bar in a random place that doesn't make sense for aftermarket.
Sure. And is that something that you help with or somebody that you're connected with to help with some of those designs?
Yeah, yeah, we do that all the time. We do the consultations in person here in San Diego. We do virtual usually on the phone before we come out. Absolutely.
Okay. Wow. I didn't think, I was, this is my assumptions. I was thinking like, great, if I need a bed, if I need a chair, if I need some handrail, those sorts of things. Yeah, you guys are there. And then I was thinking interior design maybe or somebody else, but it sounds like you guys really know that market and know what's going to fit and
Yeah,
work.
absolutely. For handrails and bars, and I've done some like design consultation on our accessible bathroom remodels, but there are bona fide interior designers and interior designers for accessibility that make amazing things. You know, that really gets into the nitty gritty of tile selection and fixtures and so forth, and they stay up to date on what's trending and what looks good. So there are some of those people out there too that niche into the accessibility interior design space.
Man, that's interesting. What's one of the things that you come across with families where they may be a little bit further down the road with getting accessories for the home and getting some of the medical devices? What's one of the things that people really go, man, I really wish we had done this sooner?
Everything. The rails is a big one. The rails and the walk-in shower. The walk-in shower is one where one they don't realize how nice and what a nice addition it is to their space, and two that it could be done at the same cost as a regular remodel. I've come into that situation too many times where they did it before speaking with an accessibility contractor and put in the small ledge, and I met them because they're coming in the store to buy ramps. I really feel bad for people when we meet them after they made that decision before working with someone in accessibility or medical equipment world. But for the most part, people are generally really excited that they got what they got. And when it comes to bathroom remodels and changes in their homes, I had a health fair today, and I had a woman come up to me who I'd never met before, but she had a stairlift installed by us, and she came up to tell me. At first, I said, "Oh, what happened to your wrist?" I didn't know who she was, and she had had a fall, and she's like, "That's why I called you guys." She had broken her wrist on her stairs, and she's just like, "I wish I would have done that. This wouldn't have happened. I am so happy with my stairlift. Your team was amazing." She was giving compliments on my people, one of which is my husband, who also had a cast on his wrist while he was doing her install. So we were joking about it because he's one of those guys that's going to be super stubborn about getting stuff when he gets older. He would not take days off after he had surgery. He's like, "No, I'll just put the drill over my cast like this." So he was out there doing it, and they were making buddies over both being in a cast.
See, that's why I was assuming that it was going to be the guys that were going to be more stubborn in that previous question. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
they tend to be. But then when you get this stuff, and it can either make you more comfortable or open your life back up again to being able to do stuff on your own, all that goes away, and once people get it, once it clicks, then they're like, "Ooh, yeah, let's go to Harmony. What can we get? What can we do?" But there's a big psychological barrier that people have to overcome first. So again, there's the third parties. One third party I didn't bring up is private duty care managers, and not everybody can have one of those because they do have to private pay for them. But they're like case managers that you have in the hospital, except they case manage your life, and they'll work to understand your full medical situation and any diagnoses, medications, so forth, your living situation, your financial situation, your family, everything, and have a plan in place for you when you need it, and also be able to come in and make plans for you before you know you need it. And they're usually nurses and have a medical background, and I find those private duty care managers can be priceless.
wow. Yeah, I didn't even know about those. I'm starting to get to that age where the curtain is slowly being, revealing some of these things that I'll
Yeah, you're gonna.
probably be engaged with sooner than later.
I know. I think that two industries, that one, so you can like enroll with a private duty care company before you need them. But then if you have a fall, emergency room visit or something, you can activate them to come work for you. There's usually some sort of fee to onboard them. But if you don't have family in town and you were either a senior couple or senior living alone, and you had something like that come up, you want someone to go to the hospital and advocate for you, and someone who knows your situation. So I would do that personally and have that on deck even before I needed it. And I also would consider a reverse mortgage before I needed it and let it be in place and accumulate the total money I can draw on should I ever need it. And you don't have to use it if you don't need it, but you have it ready to go, and it does grow in value as it sits there. So they've really changed those products around a lot to make them beneficial to the seniors, as opposed to in the beginning they were a little sharky.
Yeah, I interviewed somebody probably a couple of years ago, and now I think they're being called flex mortgages versus the reverse mortgage
Yeah, that's right.
because of that, right? It
Yeah,
was the old nightmare of the husband refinanced into this thing, he dies, grandma has like 3 months to move out, and they lose all the equity, they lose everything in
yeah,
it. And I think now it's even, if you can afford the down payment and then pay the taxes and upkeep the property, between you and the bank, that asset can grow, and you can do some,
yes,
you know, you can pull money out, you can do some different things with it.
yeah, yep, absolutely. And if the spouse passes, they cannot kick the person out. And if both people pass, or the people who own the home pass, there's still equity in the home. Then the home doesn't go to the bank necessarily. They recoup their money from the sale of the home, or they can refinance the home and pay that flex mortgage off. But there's definitely, I haven't heard flex mortgage, but there's definitely a lot more flexibility to it. So that's a good renaming of it.
Yeah, and folks, definitely don't just listen to me and Erica about this. Do your own homework and stuff. But we kind of, we know enough to have a cup of coffee and talk about it a little bit. I'm going to kind of put that
Yeah, yeah.
caveat out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in every niche of aging, an expert and your insurance selection, your mortgage, your finances, fiduciaries. There's so much to just make sure that you have your ducks in a row and laid out so you don't have to stress if you have that crisis moment that you're needing care and you're not worrying about the rest. You're just focusing on your care and you have the people and the things to support it.
Absolutely. It's one of those things. Yeah. I mean, all of the stuff that we're talking about for the most part, it's one of those like you want to have everything in place, not just, oh, I'm going to go see the attorney and put a will in place or, a directive or something
Yeah,
like
healthcare
I
direct.
forget all healthcare directive. Like
Yeah,
you
and
don't
have them where
stop
people
there.
can find them too. Like, you do
Right.
these things, but then make sure that somebody knows where your documents are, that you have an attorney or a family office that you're onboarded with, or you have a couple family members that are key that know, because that happens too. Put away in the drawer. Oh, there's so many stories around that because one of my moving senior move managers. It's another thing. It's a niche business, and senior move managers do estate sales, and they really help someone downsize, but in a meaningful way, keep things that are important to their memory, but can be in a smaller space. Because going from a 4,000 square foot house to a 1,200 square foot apartment can be a task. But they've found stock certificates and crazy documents that inside of books that they did not know were there, and the spouse had passed and didn't know the other spouse had left, and worth a lot of money that then they help them organize and find in the most random of places.
Well, and I'm going to take a pause and give a shout out to my mom who has done what you said, and she's got everything in a nice binder, and we know who the executor and all these things are going to be. And she's pointed it out to all of us kids, mainly because most of us are going to forget, but she's hoping that 1 out of 7 remembers what that binder is.
She's got good odds.
Yeah, so she's making sure she heads her bets on that. But yeah, shout out to mom for being prepared and having documents in a row for us.
Yes.
I want to pivot over a little bit. I think when we talked before, there was like a big industry show that was about to happen that was going to start to forecast the next year's, I think, Medicare payments and some of those things. Was there any of that information that came back that you'd like to share with us?
Not in the world of medical equipment. The payments allowables the same. The big thing that was at MedTrade in that world was some of the AI billing and AI processing for the dealers was a big deal there. Some of the product showcase, one thing that was really cool there that's now in our showroom, and it's just kind of the beginning of how technology will integrate with our products and services, is a self-driving power chair.
Oh,
And I was like, who needs that? You're going to program to go to Starbucks and Carl's Jr. Like that, it has the maps. You can like have it drive anywhere, but you actually map your home. You map your space
ah,
with, like, if we were to sell the chair to someone, we could go map it with them, or their caregiver can map it with them. So you map your bathroom, your kitchen table, your patio, like these different places. And then you can say, chair, first you could say, chair, come to my bed, so you can transfer into it. And then you can say, chair, go to my bathroom. And it'll drive somebody safely without hitting walls. Like, it has drive, you can drive it yourself with drive assist and it won't hit anything, or it'll drive on its own without hitting anything. And this is really powerful because some people have poor hand dexterity, they have essential tremor, some people are low vision, and some people are just bad drivers. They're just hitting the wall and tearing up their house, or if they're in a community, like being dangerous and maybe running into others going to the dining hall and stuff. So I thought it was really amazing and opens up the possibility of powered mobility to individuals who couldn't use it before, and use it in a safe way. So it was really neat. It was more than what I thought. And then also it has amazing terrain capabilities when you go outside. That also was impressive. Climbing like 3-inch curbs and uneven floor and ground and gravel, and in a small package that you can take apart and put into a car. So it was all around impressive.
oh, very cool. It sounds like it's using a lot of technology that we would have in the Roombas or iRobots and
Yeah.
your vacuum cleaners and your robotic. lawn mowers and stuff. So
Yeah, it's
interesting.
LiDAR. It's LiDAR is what they use to map the spaces.
Yeah, and I think it may be active as well. I mean, it will learn the route, but then if you have a pair of boots in the hallway
Yeah,
or
it'll
something
stop.
else, it'll detect that. And
Yep, absolutely. It won't run over your cat, your caregiver, things in the way. It will it'll do it.
yeah, I'm just thinking you're saying that. I'm thinking, I'm going to be this ornery old grandfather in one of these things, and I'm going to try to run somebody down that's trying to give me medicine or something like that. I just picture myself being full of mischief when I'm old.
That's good. It keeps you spunky, keeps you young.
Absolutely. I do want to pivot a little bit. I know we're talking primarily seniors, but what are some of the things that you at Harmony help people with when it might come to whether it's children or young adults that may have accidents? They break a knee, they blow out a hip, they do whatever, or maybe they're born with some challenges. What are some of the things that you can help parents with and even grandparents?
Uh, Transfers are probably the biggest thing. So we see parents and grandparents trying to lift and transfer their injured or younger family members that they should not. They work with the Regional Center, which is the organization in California for developmentally disabled kids. And I meet moms and dads that are in their 70s lifting like a baby. They're 120-pound kid because that's what they've always done, and they never stop to ask regional or ask insurance for any different way. So transfer assistance is probably the biggest thing because they're used to being like the the elder that can do it all. And so we put in things like ceiling lifts and powered patient lifts. But ceiling lifts are a really powerful transfer device when they know they're going to be transferring again and again throughout life. Just makes it so much easier. So that would be one big area. And then temporary, if it's injury, temporary things is we rent a lot of stuff, and there's things like floor to ceiling poles, they're tension mounted poles, and Shower Buddy track systems. It's a track that goes over your tub and you can bring a chair in that allows you to get a lot of accessibility done without home modifications and
Okay.
without drilling anything. And that can be really helpful for visitability, like they're just going to come stay with them for a little while if they're renting, and then if it's temporary.
Okay. Okay. And I guess in the scenario of, let's say, young woman, high school cheerleader, they have tons of injuries and busted hip or busted leg and temporary for, let's say, 2 to 3 months. It sounds like you guys have got the stuff to come in and put it in and then be able to remove it fairly easy.
Yeah, yeah, they would rent she would most likely in that case need a wheelchair with an elevated leg rest, rent the chair to get around or maybe a scooter for school. I've had that scenario a few times with kiddos with injuries and getting them powered equipment at school because the campuses are so hard to navigate, much less in a manual chair. And then, yeah, those temporary bathing solutions at home. Bathing and toileting is really the really big areas, key areas. So there are temporary bars and temporary seats, that we can do. And the transfer bench, basic one, and a floor to ceiling pole, those are easy, low cost solutions. The shower buddy system, that's more involved, but you can have someone who's completely dependent, massive injury or developmental disability, be able to have the outcome kind of be like they have a roll in shower without having one. So those solutions are great, and it can work to not change the space like structurally at all.
Sure. No, that makes sense. And I'm sure probably insurance helps with some of that, but probably doesn't pay the full freight for
Yeah,
those
it really
things.
depends. So they generally don't ever pay for that shower buddy system, but regional center will. And then in
Okay.
some states, the Medicaid will. So it would depend. And then for temporary, they just do the whatever rental equipment. They generally don't do floor to ceiling bars on any insurance. So there's definitely out of pockets there. But the bigger core equipment that can be rented for mobility, that's often covered.
Gotcha. Gotcha. And I wanted to ask you this last question too. And, I'm I'm reading it because I wanted to remember what it was. But what does aging well actually look like when you're working with people, and not just physically, but everything, emotionally and relationally? And when families get it right, what does this kind of look like in your eyes?
It looks like communication and being very upfront and realistic. So, talking about what aging looks like and talking about our healthcare directives and a will and a trust in home accessibility, talking about it well ahead of the need for it and having a plan that everybody is on board with is the first step. Taking the steps to make your home safe and accessible right when you notice any sort of mobility or balance change or vision change, like really doing these things early because they can be quite simple and they can prevent the fall that makes you need things that are very complicated. So I see people who have good support systems, and they don't always have to be family. I see people come in with those care managers that I was talking about. I see people through some of the programs like St. Paul PACE. It's a Medi program that's really a great advocate for their consumers. But it always starts with communication and being realistic. Like we can't say, this isn't happening to me. I'm not getting older. I don't need this. Like it needs to be that, well, I will be getting older and I want everyone to know what I want. And you communicate that while you still can communicate that. And I want to be in this place. And then so you get the expert to let you know what you need to do to stay in that place. And you take all the steps in each area of your life and kind of write it out like a business plan, but for your life.
So all those, I'm going to pick on grandfathers, but I know grandmothers, and it's a personality thing. All you planners out there, this is a time for you to shine and get everybody OT and home medical and everybody all together and come up with this.
Yeah, because people don't want to talk about it. It's our culture. You know, our culture is unfortunately kind of ageist and also in denial about death. And it is something that happens to us all. And it can be a beautiful thing and it can be embraced and done differently if we would just do that. If we could talk about it more and make sure that everyone's honored, respected, and wishes are met along that path. And other cultures do it more than we do, and we're starting there's so much aging now in America that are starting to have a lot more conversations and experts and new jobs too. I've met now three, they call them end of life doulas. You know, people just like a
Okay.
birthing doula, the end of life doula. So I think just being comfortable about the conversations and what you want is the first step that will get you there.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. And Erica, is there anything that I haven't asked you, whether this episode or even stuff that you might have thought about from our first conversation, that you want to bring up that, I just haven't touched on?
Mm, I don't know. I think we've kind of said it a lot about the pre-planning, the expert consultation. I would also say that in that journey to go do a couple tours of senior living communities, even though you're planning on staying in your home, just to see and feel and know what all the options are out there so it doesn't scare you. So you see, like, actually, those places are pretty nice, and I could see myself there, or just to understand the different paths to aging and aging in place, because aging in place means more the place that you call home, not the place that you raised your kids. And you can do that successfully and well in a variety of different locations. We just don't want it to be the skilled nursing in the hospital. Um, so that can be a fun adventure too. And then I would say it's never too late to set goals. Set goals for things you want to do with your life, vacations you want to take, and then reach out to people like you and I and resources because we're going to make it happen.
That's awesome. I love it. And you can just go ahead and pencil me in when they get to the hover chair.
Yeah,
Then,
it's coming. It's so wild.
it's got to be coming, and it's got to be, before I'm way too old to have fun with it. So pencil me in right now, and and we'll talk in a few years. But
You
I
got
want to
it.
stay in contact and, have you back on a little bit down the road and meet up again, because there's so much that changes in this environment. So I
Yeah, the
really,
technology is really great and really coming right now.
yep. And it's going to be fast, just like these self mapping chairs and things. The next thing you know, you're going to see a bunch of old guys like me running to the convenience store and ATV looking things that are our assisted driving chairs.
Yeah, no, seriously, the robotic suits. Yeah, who
Yep,
knows?
all of it. Well, thank you, Erica, so much for being on the Cool Grandpa podcast. I really have enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Me too, Greg. Thank you so much. Take
All
care.
right. Bye. It was fun catching up with Erica, and I really enjoyed hearing some of the stories about some of the impact that having the right equipment, having the right layout for a house or an apartment or wherever you're at can make such a huge difference in terms of being able to age in place, as well as knowing as like, adult children that our moms, dads, uncles, whoever's important to our life that might be needing some help and security around the house can get what they need and how to put that into the house. So that was some great information that Erica gave to us. Again, if you missed the first conversation with Erica, I'm going to put a link into the show notes so you can go back and listen to that. Erica's got some great information just about medical equipment in general. The other thing I'm going to do is make sure that I put a link to Harmony Home Medical into the show notes. So if you're looking to either get equipment, if you're looking to make some changes around your house to make it a little bit easier to move around, maybe make things a little bit more secure, whether it's in the kitchen, the bathroom, the hallways, whatever it is, get in contact with Erica because she can give you a consult even if you don't live in the San Diego area. There's ways that you can, do a video chat where you can hold up your iPad or your cell phone and she can get a good idea of what you need and then be able to help direct you to the people that can help you out the best. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Erica. Next week, I think I'm going to be doing a special Mother's Day presentation talking about how us grandfathers can help support our daughters, our daughter in laws, the mothers of our grandkids, and how we can make sure that they feel loved and safe and secure in their relationship with their children, as well as the relationship they have with us. So that's going to be a great conversation. So I hope you enjoyed this. And until next time, remember to stay cool.